Okay, so you saw my video where I replaced the seal at the on the timing chain cover, or I resealed the timing chain cover. I broke this vacuum hose thing here for the PCV valve. I just used some Gorilla Glue tape to fix that with some zip ties. I broke this other overflow here. There's a plastic pipe there. I just cut off a piece of it and stuck the other piece in them. Anyway, whatever. When I just started the car up, the knock sensor was disconnected. I didn't plug that one back in. Anyway, but this job, the job to reseal the timing chain covers could have been much easier if I had another vehicle, right? Probably. Because the whole project could have been easier because I've replaced the oil filter housing gaskets before, so I've removed the intake manifold before. I've replaced both high pressure pumps before. You don't need to remove those to do it, but you got to take out the fuel lines. You got to take the fuel lines out. You got to disconnect those to take this off. But if I would suggest, this is what I would suggest: if you have oil leaking out, all my oil started leaking at about 150, 160,000 miles, and I don't drive the vehicle very hard. I would suggest, if you start seeing your oil leaks, replace all the seals you can at one time. If you're getting oil leaking from the front, that means it's getting into in this area over here, and it's dripping down. So one of my oil leaks, if you go on my blog, one of the oil leaks was the oil pressure sender right here. Oil pressure sender, the seal on it went bad. I also had leaks from the oil filter housing, front and rear gaskets. Also, the PCV valve was clogged, so it was causing a lot more pressure in the crankcase, or it was causing the pressure to be whatever it's not supposed to be. So when you're in there changing the oil filter housing gaskets, and you have this off, I would suggest you might as well reseal the upper timing chain covers. If you go back to the video, you got to loosen the radiator pipes on both sides. These aluminum pipes, loosen them up. Of course, all these air boxes, you take all these air boxes and these intake lines out. When this comes out, it takes out the throttle body. The throttle body comes out with this. You'll have way more access. While you're there doing that, you might as well change the valve cover gaskets, because those leak also. And I think mine are still leaking because I bought some cheap ones. I think that's why I'm still leaking right now, because I got some cheap gaskets for those. So my intention is to change the valve cover gaskets one more time. I've changed the oil filter housing gaskets multiple times. I changed the oil gallery pan gasket also, which is under the fuel lines. That did not need to be changed. But I changed it. So you might as well change it when you do the oil filter housing. I also changed the gasket for the valve. I don't know what this is called. It's like a valve timing solenoid or something like that. I don't know what this is called. It has something to do with the valve adjustment solenoid. I think that's what it's called, valve adjustment solenoid. That's an easy one. You could do that at any time. I don't really have any other leaks right now. I mean, it's leaking, but I think it's the valve covers. It's a little bit of leaking from the upper timing chain covers because of the whole sucky way that I did it. You got these things right here. I don't know what these are. I don't think those are leaking because I don't see anything leaking from them. If you pull out your spark plugs and you see oil around your spark plugs, then your valve cover gasket is going bad. Or that oil may have been in there for a long time, but whatever. So if you buy a car like this, old, used, or if your car reaches about 150,000 miles, you know, I think it's the original timing chain and everything in it. You might as well change all of those seals. I did not do a video on how I changed the water pump. Water pump was very hard to change, but I talk about it on the blog. There was nothing wrong with the water pump. Nothing wrong with it. It's made out of metal. Well, the new one is made out of metal. The existing one is made out of plastic. The new one is made out of metal. There really should be nothing wrong with your water pump unless your water pump is leaking. And even if it leaks, it's gonna leak in between the water pump and the engine, because it has a shaft, and you would probably see antifreeze drip at the front. But if you don't see any antifreeze dripping at the front, your water pump is probably fine. Check everywhere else. The water pump in this is not pulled by a belt. It has a metal shaft in it. It's a pain in the behind to get off. Yeah, so whenever you're working on this car here, or whenever I'm working on it, for the most part, it takes me days. So you need to give yourself a good amount of time to do any kind of invasive work. If it's not on the top, if it's not something on the top, then give yourself some time and do your research on how to get it all done, because just about every time you do something, you want to take out these ear boxes, unless you're changing these. And I've changed these high pressure fuel pumps multiple times. You see I got two different types, right? I have one which is the wrong one for my car, and I have the one which is the correct one for my car, right? I've been buying the wrong one all this time. And what I realized is this part, this mechanical part, doesn't go bad. You only need to replace the regulator. Or they don't even call it a regulator. They call it a converter. They call it a converter, right? So sometimes you're driving on and you might get the car starts to feel like it's about to shut off. Sometimes, if you get that when the car gets hot and it feels like it's about to shut off, and it happens every time, and you're getting a code for pressure too low or something like that. I don't remember. It hasn't happened in a long time. You just need to buy this. This is $45. This little part, the so-called converter, is only $45. This whole assembly is $250. Some people are selling it for $600, $500. I think this is aftermarket. It's still an aftermarket unit. No, it's not. I think it's all Hitachi. Nobody else really makes it. I think Hitachi is the only one that makes it. I think. I'm not sure. But as you can see, this is the correct one for my model. This is for somebody else's car. I don't know what model vehicle, but anyway, whatever. I just changed this beginning of this year, this regulator, this converter. It doesn't even have any markings or any numbers on it. So this is the aftermarket converter. Yeah, so the hardest part about the fuel lines is getting the bushings and the threads lined back up. See, I got leaves in here. When you thread this aluminum onto this brass, you got to be very careful. And also there's a little lip here on the metal line. They tell you to replace the line every time you uninstall it and reinstall it. Who can afford that? I've taken this thing apart at least 6 times, and thank God it's come back together. Okay, so you can do it, but I would give myself some time. So you work slowly and carefully. Put on some good music. I don't know what you like to listen to, but whatever that allows you to focus, because you got to remember where everything goes back to. Take your time, and work on it slowly and carefully, especially when you're threading those brass lines back together. If you want to change the oil gallery pan gasket, which is under here, it's not part of this, it's under here, under this area right here, you got to remove all of the fuel lines from the fuel injectors and take them out so you can get to the pan. That is, you should probably take some pictures before you do that. Anyhow, see, I keep my car very dirty. I don't even have a cover for my jumper cable connection here. It's, you know, I'm an amateur, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad for an amateur like myself. But you just got to be prepared with all the parts before you get it done. I haven't found anywhere online where I can see all the same parts that they see at the dealer. They can see different parts that we don't see. Because if you go on the Audi parts online ordering site, you can't find all right.
Everything is good?
Yeah. All right, thanks. You can't find the oil pan, the upper, you can't find the pan cover that has the pipe in the middle on the website easily, and you can't find the part for the pipe. I was able to, between FCP Euro and and some other European related websites, just googling, I was able to see that. Like, even if you go, there's a guy named Vag Technic from the UK. He has some great videos on assembly and disassembly of these engines, but I haven't seen one that's like this one. He mostly works on, I've seen him work on one Q7, and the Q7 that he worked on didn't have this type of engine. I think it was a V6. So I don't know anything about V6s, but if it's a V8, yeah, you know, you can shoot me a question what I know. I don't know a lot, but what I'm most proud about is that the front of the car is bone dry. There's nothing leaking out of there anymore. But I'm still mad that there's still oil leaking on both sides at the back. So I think that suspicion is that the valve covers are still no good. No more leaking coming out of here. If your leaking is coming out of here, like I said, it's the, look at the fuel pressure, the oil pressure sender, and it could be the valve cover, the valve, the oil filter housing gaskets, which go flat sometimes, or it could be the cam adjustment solenoid. That's what I call it. That's what I'm calling it. Things don't really seem to go bad on it. I don't push the car. I don't race the car. I mean, I don't drive it aggressively. Slow acceleration. Slow acceleration is the best way to fuel efficiency anyway. So I use, I drive the car like I drive the car almost like a, you know, very gently. Very gently. There's really no other way for me to do it because I'm approaching 175,000 miles. Oh, the hoses go bad. I have not bought one of these hoses because I went online and saw the hoses. And the hoses are very expensive. So what I do, I get some, I should put another one here. I get some Gorilla Glue tape, wrap it, and then zip tie it, because the ends of the plastic gets frayed. Oh, one other thing here. My computer, I'm not going to take it off, but my computer is under here. And I had a suspicion that my computer was going bad because water was getting into it. I don't know that for certain. So I put a plastic bag over it. So try to keep your ECU, or I think it's the ECU. The ECU is under here. Yeah. The ECU is right under here. It's not really covered properly. So I put a little plastic bag over the ECU to try to keep it a little bit drier than normal, because the contacts are exposed. My windshield wiper mechanism got loose because it's held together by a little grommet, a little plastic grommet. So what I did, I just squeezed it with my vice grip and used the same grommet over again. It's the same grommet that's actually on a Chevy Equinox, so I guess a lot of the cars are doing that. But to try to get the grommet out is very difficult, and getting the new one in is very difficult. So you just take a vice grip and squeeze the metal around it, and then it'll keep the little ball joint inside. Of course, your fuse box is under here. One of the fuse boxes are under here. What is that? What is that tank right there? I don't even know. I've never even looked at that. What is that? I've never looked at this. Okay, I know that this is my power steering fluid. So what's this? This must be brake fluid. I've never had to touch that. That must be my brake fluid, right? Yeah, I've never had to touch it so far. I'm gonna keep that in mind. But there's fuses in here, and there's fuses and relays back here. I had an issue where my high pressure fuel pump wasn't working properly, and it shorted out a fuse that was in there. So when I changed the pump, I had to change the fuse. It was a 15 amp fuse. I don't know what number it was, but you want to keep a collection of, you gotta have a little collection of fuses somewhere, hopefully. And you use, because you're gonna need them, especially if you put in something like this regulator. If you change the regulator and it's still not working, check the fuse. Get a fuse tester, get a Euro hose clamp. These are all the gaskets that I've been working on for the past few days and stuff like that. I still gotta put this piece together because this holds some sensor over there, and since I put the RTV sealant in and I didn't get the bolt in, it's sealed and I can't get it in now, so whatever. More zip ties that I put on and cut off. I was holding the hoses together with Teflon at one point. Expansion tank, I thought my expansion tank needed to be replaced. I bought a new expansion tank, never used it. Also, one day I was driving and my steering wheel started feeling funky. So I went and bought some power steering fluid and put in here, and it made it even worse. So I thought I needed a new power steering pump. That wasn't the case. I just needed to top it up with the correct power steering fluid, and then I never had a problem again, which is a Pentosyn model. I hope I talk about it on the blog, but I think I did. But there's a get the specific Pentosyn from here. If you don't want to have to research it, then you probably want to go to the dealer and get the dealer's hydraulic fluid. Air filters, I've changed the air filters maybe once a long time ago. I haven't changed them. I have not changed them in probably many years, and now I don't have any money, so I'm not gonna change them anytime soon. I just take them out sometime and I knock the dust out of them and I put them back in. So maybe that's why my fuel efficiency sucks like that. So let me see what other issues I had. I didn't really have any other issues. My fog lights don't really work right now. Somebody backed up into my car and smashed my logo here. Oh, look, I'm holding this up with a snow scraper because these things blew out. These things don't work, and the one for the foot brake doesn't work either. For the e-brake, it's not even an e-brake; it's a parking brake. An e-brake is one that you can hold with your hand. So the parking brake, that one is no good either. So it doesn't. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't really have any problems right now. Everything is functioning. I got a check engine light, but it's because I didn't plug this in right away when I started the car back up. I just changed the battery. The battery lasted me 5 years. It's 1,000 amps less than the high-end one. They have a high-end one that's, I think, 1,000 crank amps. I got a one that's 900 crank amps, but it doesn't seem to give me a problem. Like I said, I had the same 900 crank amp battery, and it lasted me for 5 years through winters and summers. Now winter's coming again, and the battery was acting up, so I said, let me change that battery. $204 plus tax. Which is inclusive of the core charge that they paid back. Or the lights. You pull this thing up to take the lights out. And you push the whole assembly out. You clip this piece out. The lights come out pretty easily. That's very convenient. I put in LED. I think they're LEDs now. No, they're not LEDs. They're whatever light bulb I got on Amazon. They're not LED. I don't think so, because I've changed them multiple times. They're not LEDs. Wish they were. That's it, man. I changed the belt. The belt was on there for 5 years. The accessory belt, just changed the accessory belt. That was kind of hard because I didn't understand that the accessory belt, to take it off, you just use the wrench itself. You don't have to have an attachment. Use your socket wrench, your 3/8 socket wrench, stick it in a square hole, and move the tensioner out of the way. But I would use a piece of pipe or a pry bar, or if you got a breaker bar, a 3/8 breaker bar, you stick it in there, or was it 1/2 inch? It could be 1/2 inch. If you got a 1/2 inch breaker bar or a 3/4 breaker bar, I forgot which one it is. I think it was it's 3/4 inch. There's 3/4 inch, yeah, 3/4 inch. There's a 3/4 inch square hole. You stick your ratchet in that hole, and you're able to move the tensioner out of the way. You relieve the tension so you can take everything out. That's how you get down there to take the alternator out. The alternator is held in by 2 bolts, and it's also liquid cooled. It's also cooled by this radiator pipe right here. Behind the radiator there's a bracket. Behind that is the oil cooler. You need a triple star. You need a set of triple star. You need a set of Torx. You need a set of safety bolts. But I changed this. Somebody on the internet suggested changing these, so I changed these from the safety screw to a regular just self-tapping screws that I got from Home Depot. I don't know what else, that's really all that's going on right here. So everything is kind of working for the most part. The trunk gave me a little issues, but the trunk gives extra issues when your battery is low. I broke the trunk mechanism, and then I had to put a screw in it and whatever. So I broke the trunk mechanism. It's working a little bit right now, but yeah. Let me see. I haven't had to change this temperature sensor at all. There's one more in the back over there. The fan assembly, that's held in by 2 clips that are on each side, and you can just pull it. Well, it's not just, but you pull it straight out. You remove this, and you can pull the radiator straight out. There's no fill port on the radiator. You can only fill it from over here, from the expansion tank. This, my window washing fluid pipe here, has a little hole in it on this part somewhere, but it goes in, and the tank is all the way down somewhere in the back in the fender. So you have a better look at it if you take the mud flap off of the fender, which you see there's a gap right here because I didn't put all the screws back in. Nothing else is going bad, really. So at 170 something thousand miles, you know, this I don't know, maybe the person who had it before did a lot of maintenance on it. Seems like they did because it's still going. I'm abusing it right now a little bit, but it's not letting me down. The other day I had a engine misfire message. It's because the harness, all the clips on my harness are plastic, right? But they're gotten old and they're flimsy, they're a little thin, so the clips on them don't work anymore. They don't clip onto the ignition coils anymore. They're helped by these little screws here, but those screws, they're like self-tapping screws, and they're not machine screws. They put self-tapping screws going into plastic. This valve cover is plastic, and they don't hold very well. So that's why I have a zip tie right here holding up the harness, because I guess this is cylinder number 8, and I got a misfire message for cylinder number 8. I had a misfire on another cylinder over here the other day, but that's fine. But that harness is helped by a bracket that's up there. You know what? I could zip tie that to the bracket that's back there. That's what it's supposed. Yeah, okay. So the reason why mine is hanging so much is because I disconnected it from, anyhow, a support that's back there. I could zip tie it from back there instead of making this nasty, ugly mod right here. Yeah, that's it. You know, you got some sensors down at the bottom for like I think the oil level. My oil dipstick, you know, it's held in by I think a 10 millimeter bolt or a 30 T30 Torx or 30 Torx or whatever it is. Yeah, make sure you got a Torx set. Make sure you got a triple star set. I showed you how to do the battery the other day, or how I do the battery, so not necessarily the right way. But I'm done talking right now. So, oh yeah, when you want to take this airbox off, it's kind of like a quick connect. You gotta, there's a green cover for this. There's typically a green cover for this. This goes to the air ride. You pull the green cover off, pop the green cover off, then push in at the face of it, and you can pull it off. It's almost like your water lines for your refrigerator. It's like a compression thing. So it's a compression fitting. So you gotta push, you gotta squeeze in the front, and then you can slide it off. But I lost the green piece. It fell down somewhere. My mud flap, my mud guard or whatever, splash guard or whatever down at the bottom, I didn't put it back on because half of it got torn up. So most of it is torn up. I'm gonna throw it away sometime soon. So that's it right now. I mean, I think I've talked about everything that I've done. Try not to buy any parts or try to fix or reuse stuff like the hoses. Just patch the hoses, patch the hoses, patch the hoses. But you know, what can I tell you? I'm cheap. You know, the parts are expensive, right? Sometimes. Let me see. Oh yeah, I just fixed the exhaust pipe. One of the exhaust pipes. I thought that the flex pipe was bad. But the flex pipe, it was not bad. It just that one of the clamps that cover. Let me see. I don't know if I can see it. If you're gonna be able to see it. No. You won't be able to see it. I'm leaking a lot of oil, bro. Anyhow, I gotta get back to work, so thanks for listening.